At this time, thank you, I'm going to bring back Dr. Greg Carr, and Dr. Greg Carr is going to give us a brief history of Juneteenth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Layla, this is, been to Cabrini before. Malik and I were talking about coming out here, Philadelphia Freedom Schools. I think we've had some trainings out here. And it's a real difference. I know that's right. Remember, Barbara, think about, yes, we've been out here before. And when you have young people who don't necessarily get a chance to spend a lot of time around grass and trees, you see the humanity as they begin to settle into that rhythm change. So I think we're all experiencing that. So I'm not going to be long at all, exactly as you say, Lila. I hope I understand the assignment. So thank you, Dr. Campbell, for, helping us get here and being in this space. I'm looking back at those shirts. I don't know if there's any tree speakers in here, and I would chop the tree up, but, Sankofa, literally, go get it. It doesn't say return, it just says go get it, because the symbol says it all. We got to go get it, have to have the memory. Let's just get right to the point. I want to bring this up. This is from one of the many books on Juneteenth. It's amazing again how quickly the market begins to figure out how they can make money off of something that is so completely the opposite of the market. General Order number 3. We've all heard it, but let's just do it so we all are clear together. This is the order that Major Emory read on behalf of General Granger that day in the Galveston Bay on the shores of the Gulf in 1865. The people are informed. Now, the first thing I should tell you is this is a military order. Military orders, as some of you all are veterans know, are usually given to military personnel. True, but this is addressed to the people. Now, who are these people? It says the people are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, and we know what that proclamation was, right? Right, we know here in Pennsylvania in particular, because in Philly, as we know, January 1st, every year, particularly January 1st, 1863, was a moment when people of African descent and other folks, but especially people of African descent in a city like Philadelphia, Boston, New York, who were quote unquote free, would gather at church. It is the origin, although there are other tributaries, it is the single most common origin of what we call watch night. Any of y'all been to watch night? Been drugged as children to watch night when you were little? You got to go pray midnight, New Year's Eve, and you'd rather be watching the ball drop or do something like that. No, watch night meant you went to church and you prayed, and at 12:01 you prayed again, and then you ate all the food at the church. Well, the origins of that are with the Emancipation Proclamation, because Lincoln gave those southern states 4 months to come back into the Union. People say Lincoln freed the slave. Lincoln ain't freed nobody. Lincoln wrote a piece of paper, and then Negroes stuck it on the end of a bayonet and went and enforced it. The military is what enforced the Emancipation Proclamation, and many of those military troops, people of African descent, as we know. But the point I'm raising here is that in September 1862, Lincoln says, if by January the 1st, 1863, y'all not back in the Union, everybody in that territory is free. But the Confederate States of America said, we're another country. So it would be like us telling another country, this is what's going to happen in your country. They're laughing at the emancipation. And the irony is, of course, in the places where he could have freed people of African descent, the Emancipation Proclamation did not apply. Like Maryland, where Lincoln sent those first federal troops out of D.C. because them people in Baltimore was like, hell, if the South is going, we're leaving. He said, send some troops north to Baltimore first and ring them. People in New York City went to the mayor of New York City and go to Albany and tell the governor, if the South leaves, we got to leave. Why? Do you know how much cotton and indigo and sugar we get out the South? We can't ship nothing out the ports. Meanwhile, the Confederates were like, well, we'll just run everything through Charleston and Richmond. But Charleston's a port, and the French are sitting the whole thing out saying, we'll wait to see who wins. So Abraham Lincoln said, in this war, I want God on my side, but I must have Kentucky. Well, what about them enslaved Africans? The emancipation does not apply to, I'm not trying to free everybody. I'm trying to win the war. If it means I can free some of them and keep some of them enslaved, if it means freeing them all. But right now, September 1862, I'm telling these people, if you come back, we'll work it out. But if you're not back by January 1st, we got a problem. And that's where watch night comes, because them free African people in this city of Philadelphia down the street, they praying, and not just black people. You go on Broad Street, you see the Union League. There's a lot of abolitionists in Philadelphia, you understand? And so they're praying. January 1st, oh, they not back? Give me a uniform. And everybody here knows Camp William Penn. You go the opposite direction, out toward Cheltenham. Let's go recruit some soldiers. Fred Douglass said, you put that U.S. on this guy's chest and put a couple of bars on his shoulder, we'll end the war. Martin Delany was like, yeah, I agree. But, I'll murder everything moving. So they both met with Abraham Lincoln, and Lincoln made Delany a major. Fred Douglass was salty about that. Why? Well, I wanted to be appointed. Yeah, but Lincoln's attitude toward Martin Robeson Delany was, see, I know that Douglass wants to win this war and he'll do anything. Plus, he was enslaved. But Delany, I get the impression Delany might kill me for his freedom. So if I'm trying to win a war, let me get somebody who's not going to back up. And Delany said, you just get some black troops with some black leaders, commanders. I appreciate Robert Gould Shaw. He lost his life, no question. That's why they have a Shaw neighborhood around Howard University. But we need some black majors, some black generals. We need some black. And so they made Delany a major. But anyway, the point is that by January 1863, it's clear the South's not coming back. So now we got to fight this war. That war drags on for another couple of years. Actually, and here we get to Juneteenth. Fast forward. Continuing to the text. Again, the people are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, Emancipation Proclamation, next words, all slaves are free. Okay, that's what the Emancipation said. Well, actually, that's more than that, right? All slaves are free? Yeah. That ain't what the Emancipation Proclamation said. All slaves in the territories currently. Dude, so immediately what he's done, he's gone beyond the Emancipation Proclamation. But there's a reason, because after 1863, they continue to fight. By April 1865, Lee has surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. And Abraham Lincoln is like, man, come on, Mary, let's go see this show. Uh-oh. Because they had passed the 13th Amendment in draft form. Lincoln signed the preliminary 13th Amendment. Now you're going to abolish enslavement. But something happened between January and the time the states ratified the 13th Amendment. Lincoln is dead. And the war is over. The war is not over. Let's continue. But didn't Lee surrender to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse? The people in Texas was like, sure did. That's in Virginia. Where your troops, baby? What you mean? You know that army y'all be talking about that stuff? Yeah, This is the Lone Star country. I'm sorry, I guess it is a state since 1846. Because, see, we went out here before that, and we basically tried to dispossess Mexico of their entire country, and all we could grab was the top third of it. Because Texas said we are our own country, a slave-holding republic, the only country that was on the border of a country that had abolished slavery. So didn't Canada about? Well, no, Canada's up there, and you got states abutting it that had abolished slavery. Texas was on the border of Mexico. Texas used to be Mexico. And in Mexico, they had abolished enslavement. But they had their own problem, because the same French that was sitting out the war to see who was going to win, they weren't against slavery, man. Plus, they had a little sour taste in their mouth because of them turnip Negroes down there in Haiti who had kicked them out. Yeah, they was like, we got to do something about this. And so they wanted Mexico. Cat named Maximilian comes in to rule Mexico, and they thinking we'll just bring slavery back. Mexico cannot be safe for these Negroes, because guess what? We talk about the Underground Railroad going north. The Underground Railroad went south too. Them Negroes escaping to Mexico. These Negroes are leaving Texas going to Mexico because the people in Texas are like, this is the Lone Star. We're going to create a country. We want to kill all the indigenous people and enslave every African out here. And during the Civil War, they start moving thousands of black people into Texas, because Texas ain't Virginia. Texas ain't Gettysburg. Texas ain't Mississippi or Alabama. It's not Chickamauga. Texas is not Tennessee. There's no Battle of Nashville in Texas. You ain't got no troops in Texas. Come make us end slavery. Delany and them boys then recruited some black troops, some of them from right up the road to Camp William Penn, And them brothers is like, no problem, baby. Give me the gun. Let me see who I need. And they had a marching song. You know, black troops had all these marches. They had one called Give Us a Flag, All Free Without a Slave. And we'll fight to defend it as our fathers did so brave. That gallant Company A will make those rebels dance. We'll fight for the Union if we only get our chance. So they singing this song, marching through the South, but Texas is a long way away. And Texas is as big as most of the East Coast by itself. And Texas is like, come on, we ready. The French are now in Mexico like, y'all ain't got to worry about that no more. We're going to get this place. We're going to gather these people here because we are fighting them anyway. Remember Cinco de Mayo, which is now a drinking holiday. The 5th of May is when the Mexicans have a temporary victory over the French, and Mexico used to celebrate Cinco de Mayo in conjunction with the Emancipation Proclamation. Because they said, we don't believe in slavery here. In fact, the president, the Mexican leader, the president who abolished enslavement in Mexico, signed that order, was of African descent. A black Mexican president. Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. So I'm looking at this banner and I'm tripping because that red, black, and green has nothing to do with Juneteenth. But now it's all mixed up together. And that t-shirt y'all got, I got to rock one of those. I'm gonna put one on this weekend. I'm telling you for that. I'm looking at this t-shirt like, y'all, so far, this is like wins the award for the Juneteenth t-shirt I've seen so far. Seriously. No, because you know, the Juneteenth flag is red and blue. Like red, white, and blue with the white star in the middle, right? It's not red, black, and green. So I'm laughing at all these people trying to run like Walmart and them get some ice cream with red, black, and green. I'm just laughing. See, y'all so in such a hurry to make a buck, you don't even understand. In the history of this, the reason you're putting red, black, and green on Juneteenth is because it is coterminous with black people, Pan-African, because Juneteenth, like Watch Night, and then January the 1st, like the rights of August. Some of y'all from the Caribbean, so you know the emancipation days in the Caribbean typically are later in the summer, like July and August. So Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, you have August. That's what they call the rights of August. And they're all emancipation days. But that means that the blackness spills out over these imaginary borders we call countries. So the red, black, and green, which is Pan-African, wherever you find black folk, now it's getting commingled with Juneteenth. Let me wind this up. So what you have by 1865 is a place that used to be a country that got in trouble. And the United States says, well, we'll bring you in. And while we're bringing you in, we aren't sure that we want to end slavery anyway, and we're trying to appease y'all. You know how it is when you live in a country where people who decide that other people are not human, there's too many of them, and then the people who run the country say, well, we'll just kind of appease y'all. I mean, we don't live in a country like that now, but back then it used to be, okay, we know you're a racist, we know you hate black people, and we don't like that, but we're going to appease y'all. They call it the compromise. Compromise 1820, compromise 1850. Compromise 1850, they're like, we're going to bring in more states because we're really trying to take all of this from the Native Americans. California will bring in free. Texas, we know what y'all about. We know we can't get along, but y'all just kind of keep it out there. I know that's not, you know, how we feel now, but back then it was like, Texas, if you can just keep it out there and stay in the union, we'll be all right. Texas is like, we're going to turn up. It's okay. All right, so by 1865, you've got troops. They've surrendered in Virginia. They've moved all these Africans into Texas, and they look at what happened at the Appomattox Courthouse as a pause. We're going to regroup. We're going to regroup in Texas. And so the Confederate leaders in New Orleans, the Confederate leaders in Mobile, Alabama, and in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, they all start heading to Mexico City. And they're back and forth between Mexico and Texas. They start plotting. They start a newspaper. Some of the names we know, Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, all these, they had that city's name for them out there in Texas. When you look at the roots, many of these cats are pro-slavery. If we know the history, we don't cheer for the Alamo. As a child, they told us to remember the Alamo. As an adult, we figured out we need to remember the Alamo. Davy Crockett and them Tennesseans and Jim Bowie and the enslaved African he had in there with him. None of them. Santa Anna was the good guys for black people. Now, if we're going to be serious about it, we have to be serious about it, right? So, Texas decides this is the staging ground for the rematch. Appomattox is a pause. We're in Mexico. They got Californians say slavery's not legal out here. Yeah, but we got some guns out here in San Francisco. We're going to put them in the bay and sail them around in Mexico. So they start re-upping the Confederate Army in Mexico from California. General Granger. It's a short. We're almost done. He says, again, the people are informed in accordance with proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. June 19th, 1865. They signed Appomattox in April. Lincoln is murdered. The war is over, except in Texas. And they trying to regroup. Granger's order goes on and says, this involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. Let's just pause there to enjoy that. Well, let me pause here because this ain't no classroom, and I know we got a lot of stuff going on. We're going to eat and see some vendors, so I'm not going to belabor this point, but I just want to make this point. There is nothing in any federal statute that goes nearly as far. Okay, y'all free. Yeah, now you free and you got every right them white people got, and now your relationship is pay me. That ain't in the Emancipation. That ain't even in the 13th Amendment, which they haven't even yet ratified. These military boards done gone buck wild. Well, you got to go back to the history of General Granger. Granger used to be under the command of J.C. Fremont. Fremont was the guy that Lincoln relieved of duty because Fremont, at the beginning of the Civil War, told Lincoln, I know what to do. Get these Negroes guns. So Fremont is going out west telling all the black people when they win a battle, y'all free. Lincoln was like, hold up, Chief, hold up. I'm talking about 1861, 1862. Meanwhile, McClellan, who is racist, he's in Virginia telling him, look, man, don't let no black people get involved. I will win the war. And that Give Us a Flag song? He said, McClellan went to Richmond with 200,000 brave. He said, keep back the N-words, and the Union I will save. Little Mac, he had his way. The Union's still in tears. Now they call for the help of the colored volunteers. In other words, see, you was listening to McClellan, who then sold you out anyway and then ran against you for president. You relieved Fremont of it, but Fremont had a lieutenant named Granger. Granger saw this as his chance. We got to bust Texas. We ain't got no troops out here. So he sails into Galveston Bay with all these troops, most of them black. Juneteenth. Now, y'all tell me, if some black troops showed up in Texas, do you think they talked to any of the enslaved black people who were in Galveston before even this was read? What's up, bro? What's up? Y'all free, man. The man getting ready to read the paper, but I'm telling you right now. Really? What? Yeah. Show me the plantation. We'll walk over there and have a little conversation with that dude, man. So these black troops are already out there telling these. So it's even before 19th. They sail in. So here, let's continue. And then Granger tells them, you have the same rights as white people. Yeah, you're going to have to wait until, what's today? The 19th, right? 2022? And we're still waiting. But the point is that you're going to have to wait until they tell you had to wait till the 14th Amendment or 15th Amendment. But they done interpreted the 14th Amendment to damn near nothing. And by next Juneteenth, when you can't terminate a pregnancy in the United States of America, when there is no affirmative action, we're going to find out that most of how the 14th and 15th Amendments have been interpreted has been made by judges. It ain't in the document. You just got the numbers on the bench now, and it's whatever the judge says it is. This is the scary time we're living in right now. But Granger has gone beyond even the way these documents have been interpreted to 2022. He says one more time, this involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property. Uh-oh, now you've touched the third rail of American politics. Black lives matter. Yes, as long as you don't burn the CVS. I'm going to tear up the whole damn Capitol. Yes, you're white. So we really don't want to charge you. Again, can we just all get, Texas was different then. It's very different now. January, anyway, wait. Anyway, we continue. He says, the freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. Can we just pause there? There's only one more sentence after this and enjoy the irony of that. You've been enslaved. Let's say this was a plantation. And we know because of Mother Cabrini, it wasn't. Because when Mother Cabrini came here, the Italians weren't white. Do you understand how whiteness is a floating signifier? Right? People can lose their whiteness. That's what a lot of people in this country are afraid of losing. I'm saying, would you rather have your whiteness or health care? I'd pick my whiteness. Okay, this has gotten out of hand at this point. You can have both as long as you impose. You know what? Anyway, Mother Cabrini understood that service means heart and mind. The Africans understood that. The ancient Egyptian word for heart is Ib, I-B. The ancient Egyptian word for mind is Eb, I-B. They didn't make a distinction between this and this. Now, we could talk another day about how they got split up, so you have to put it back together. But understand the Africans understood that. But the point is that now they've told, now imagine the irony. If this was a plantation, we was all working here, and then somebody comes and say, y'all free, you're equally, you have equal equality, you can do everything, and you should be compensated for it. Now, stay there at your home and work for wages. Now, by then, some of these Negroes became Christians. And y'all ever heard that old gospel song? This world is not my home, I'm just passing through. If heaven is not my home, then Lord, what can I do? In other words, I'm not trying to stay on this, but dude, this is my home right now, General. This is my home. My mama's over here. They sold my auntie and them, and I'm going to go back and look for them. If you know the words to the Yellow Rose of Texas, you know the words to a song that African people crafted to their needs. Y'all heard that song, right? They playing it somewhere right now in Texas for the wrong reason. There's a yellow rose in Texas that I am bound to see. First of all, yellow should be the first clue. We're not talking about white people. No soldier, he says, will you play the banjo slowly? The banjo came from Africa. That's an African instrument. Drum is playing low. I'm going back to Georgia to find my Uncle Joe. It's in the lyrics. These are black people. Now they singing it down there while they trying to figure out who they can kill, lynch, not pass no gun rights legislation. There's a yellow rose. Listen to the song. That ain't even a song. It's talking about the opposite of what you talking about. And now they in Texas and they don't have enough soldiers. The black troops are there. They're going to enforce this proclamation. Granger has read the proclamation, and then he tells all these Africans on these plantations, that's your home and stay there. I ain't stay here. You know how many Negroes walked off them plantations once this was read? What you getting ready to do? Go. Where you going? I'm going to not here. That's how half the people in Philadelphia ended up in Philadelphia. Where you going? I'm going to not here. You don't have a job? Yes. And if I stay here, I'm not going to have a life, because either I'm going to be killed or I'm murdering everything. I'm leaving. So finally, they are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. What kind of insulting language is that? Idleness? Dude, that veranda you standing on? Yeah, me and Charles built that. This fool just called us idle. Idle? You will be reading that from the beach with nothing built around here if you was talking about us being idle. Then you told us like the plantation was our home. Then you told us not come over here to these lines. Do you understand? That's how they began the fight. They used to call it the Contraband Act. If you could get to the military, you could be protected. And they might give you a gun. So these Negroes on the East Coast started calling each other contraband. What are you? Contraband. What does that mean? That means I'm with the Army. Yeah. So in conclusion, June 19th, 1865, Africans in Texas were told they were free, and that ended enslavement. Not. Africans were held in enslavement in Texas for years after that, because you got to enforce it. 2 years later, June 19th, 1867, the Mexicans got the upper hand on the French and executed Maximilian and put the French out of Mexico, got their country back. They had civil wars going on, but the point I'm trying to make is there are at least 2 Juneteenths. The next Juneteenth is June 19th, 1867, when they get rid of Maximilian. France is like, well, we're friends with the United States again. They're in the United States talking about, well, we could take the rest of Mexico. That's still a conversation there, because the Confederates were going to run the Confederacy all the way through Latin America. That was their plan. If they could get Mexico, then they're going to keep going. Now, black people did not wait, though. 1866, they had the first Juneteenth celebration in Texas. And they have all that African stuff. I don't know if any of y'all been, because they've had Juneteenth here. Shout out to Ron Brown, the Juneteenth committee in Philadelphia. We had Juneteenth many years here. Buffalo, New York, Rochester. People always in Texas, now it's everywhere. Nah, it's been everywhere a long time. Red pop, red soda, red cake, red barbecue sauce. Red is a very important color in Africana traditions. It means power. It attracts. That's why all the fast food places are red. Now think about it. McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Chick-fil-A, red. Red brings it in. And then the places that are about life and, about helping you hold food, that's green. You know what I'm saying? But all that red pulls you in. Dig a pit, barbecue 5 whole cows. You saying Juneteenth is today. We started cooking last Saturday. All the ladies from the church baked every cake known to humanity. Some of y'all were in them Juneteenth celebrations. You ate too much. Then you started playing cards, a little fight broke out, but the music started and then everybody just started dancing again. And this is in the churchyard. Why? Because this is Sunday, meaning what? A Juneteenth celebration, you got to pray all day. And all the white people will come. Why? Because these Negroes can vote now, so therefore the mayor shows up at Juneteenth. In Texas, white people always come to Juneteenth. Why? Because these are the serious people. It's not just black people. So as I said, Juneteenth then spreads. And I should mention one other day. The 16th of June in South Africa is National Youth Day. That's because on the 16th of June, 1976, they had something called the Soweto uprisings. Those young people said, we're not learning no Afrikaans. This is a white minority settler government. You trying to impose this on us. White minority? Yeah, you know, like Elon Musk. Anyway, the point is that these white South Africans want us to learn Afrikaans. We refused. And then the police shot them, killed a bunch of them. Young Hector Peterson is the best known, 16 years old. When the majority got to vote in South Africa, they turned the days of resistance on their calendar, Sharpeville Massacre, Soweto Massacre, they turned them into national holidays. It's easier to do there because they're the majority. Now, if you want to see a trick, last year this time, the 17th of June, I was at the White House. I shook Joe Biden's hand. I watched him sign the paper with Dr. Lee, Opal Lee, the so-called mother of Juneteenth. 95 years old. She walked a 2.5-mile piece today to talk about the 2.5 years between the emancipation and Juneteenth that it took to be free. She's in Texas. How you 95 years old walking 2.5 miles? But I already know y'all know about that. I know y'all just show them sticks for show. Because they stopped making Negroes out of iron, I think, around in the 60s. Now they make, people out of plastic and paper or plastic, but not iron. These are iron-made black folk. So I understand Mother Opal Lee. I watched her, sitting there with her, watching him and watching him sign. I shook Joe Biden's hand. I said, yeah, man, this is a trick. I can't wait to see how you're going to pull this off, because this is not South Africa. You're turning days of resistance into national holidays? This is the United States of America. It's not a country. Oh, it is a country. It's not a nation. See, a nation has a common set of memories. A nation has a common set of rituals. When you fly that flag, there's a lot of black people say, I'm not standing up. Not just Colin Kaepernick, Jack Roosevelt Robinson was a veteran. He writes in I Never Had It Made. I cannot salute the flag. I cannot stand for the flag. I've never had it made when I was born, and to this day, I never had it made. I can't salute that flag. He was a veteran who they court-martialed, Jackie Robinson. I'm saying that to say that giving Juneteenth national holiday status, the only way that works is if we now inhabit the spirit of Juneteenth. And this country has never proven it can do that. The jury was out in 1865, but at least that was an open war where you knew where the enemies were. From 1865 to now, Texas has been damn near ungovernable because it never reneged on its promise to be that white country. And even though white folk collectively in Texas are now a minority or close to it, the concept of whiteness keeps animating this, making appeasement with people who would choose a narrow notion of humanity over our common humanity. And we still too scared to say something about it. Well, if you put Juneteenth in the calendar, you got to have a conversation in a minute, because I'm going to tell you who's not going to budge. All them ladies baking them cakes, all them ladies and men barbecuing them cows, all them people playing spades and bidwits in the churchyard. They not going to change nothing about how they celebrate Juneteenth. The only question is, will we join them? Because you can't make this one into something else. That's what I told the president last year. Thank you, Layla. I'm sorry it took so long.